Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Economic Tourism Cultural Development meeting, committee meeting, Tuesday, June 20th. So, call to order. Just looking for a motion to approval of agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just under new business, and this is just for notification for the next meeting, update on Communities in Bloom.
Hold on. I don't think his mic is on today. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Just one-on-one, but not coming through here.
Yep, it's coming on through.
Okay.
Just wanted to add, just for notification, Communities in Bloom, an update on what's going on. So if we can do that today, great. If not, I'll leave it till the next meeting. Thank you.
Under new business? Yeah.
Yes.
Anything else? Motion to approve? Councillor Twill, seconded by Councillor McAleer. Any declarations of independence? Or, sorry, declarations of conflict of interest. Sorry. Trying to rush. Seeing none, we'll move on. Approval of minutes of the May 18th meeting. Mover? Councillor McAleer, seconded by Councillor Twill. Business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll go into discussions and reports. We'll start off with a presentation from Philip Matsowski, Eastlink Center, Charlottetown presentation. Okay.
Are we ready?
Yeah,
Okay,
go right
thank you.
ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. With me this afternoon is John Abbott, who's our GM. So we have a slide presentation for you here today, and we'll walk you through the presentation in terms of major events and minor events that take place at the Eastlink Center. And one of the objectives I think we want to share with you is the amount of activity and the diversity of activities that take place at the Eastlink Center. And we'd certainly be happy to answer any questions. So to begin with, the number of staff that are dealing with all of the activities at the Eastlink Center, we have 3 admin staff, currently one part-time staff. We have 4 staff in the trade center, or in the arena. We have 2 staff in the trade center and 3 part-time staff. And of course, we have event staff for box office and security. I think one of the things that we are concerned about with regarding our staffing, like many organizations, we're looking at people who will be retiring in the years to come and finding people who can be a good ice maker and things of that nature is presenting some challenges for us going forward. So if we look at the major events that take place in the arena, we have Islander hockey, and of course, the length of time that's there really depends on how successful the Islanders are in their schedules. We had ECBL basketball this year. Huge success this year was Canada Games. Again, University Cup was a huge success for us as well, and the participation of the city was paramount in that. Panther hockey was at the Eastlink Center, as you know. We have short track speed skating, the Atlantic Cup. Old Home Week is always a big event for us as well. And Islander and the Mount Jamboree events. And of course, concerts are another aspect of events that take place in the center. Brett Kissel, Ben Chase, and the New Year. So just some pictures will follow this, and just to illustrate some of the activity. Of course, Islander hockey. This was for the Canada Games, and the amount of work, and maybe John may make a comment around this, to convert the ice from Islander hockey to Canada Games hockey was quite significant.
Yes, and it's, the specs come in from the Canada Games, so we have to put new ice down on top of the Islander ice, which goes fairly smoothly. It's the removal of that at the end of the Canada Games. It's about 16 hours for 2 guys on 2 Zambonis stripping the ice off, so it's pretty labor intensive. And of course, we got to get it back for the Islanders hockey. It was right after the Canada Games they were put out, so a lot of work goes into all kinds of events there that people don't really understand. They look at it as a 2-week event, but it's, it's really a month for us. It's a week ahead and a week after getting back to normal. So a lot of work takes place that nobody really knows about.
And of course, Canada Games, I mean, the thing I think that Canada Games demonstrated was the diversity of sporting events that could take place in the arena. This was a picture from the trampoline event, fencing that took place, and we also had fencing prior to the Canada Games. Speed skating, of course, is not something that's new to us. And of course, U-Cup hockey, and there was great attendance throughout the U-Cup, and a couple of times I think we were over capacity in some respects. I know some staff were significantly challenged with that. And of course, basketball. Little less successful this year with the basketball, but hopefully it'll be back next year. So it's just some of the minor events that take place in the arena. Of course, we've got rec hockey, we've got skating events. We have some of the larger tournaments that take place in the city, the Early Bird, the Spud, and the Mount Hockey Tournament. And of course, from time and again, political rallies. So moving on to the Trade Center, a lot of events, obviously. PEI Home Show takes place in the Trade Center. The Easter Beef Show and Sale, the Potato Expo, which is a every other year event, the Wine Festival, graduations from and prom events from Bluefield. This is a bit of a new outing for us. We had just this past week, we had Bluefield graduation and prom. The comments back from the Bluefield organizing committee was very positive. The Hot Stove League with Ron McLean was a huge success in the Trade Center, along with the Panther Lounge. We also had the National Convention of Registered Nurses banquet, which was over 1,000 people. Again, a huge success. The place was, you'll see a picture later on, the place was decorated quite nicely. There is, of course, the Alumni and Friends Dinner for UPI, and of course, last year we had the Digstown, the TV show, which presented some challenges for us in terms of accommodating other shows, other events, I should say, through the year. And again, all home week, and of course, during COVID, we had the vaccination clinics, which were the drive-throughs. So just as an illustration, we had gives you a sense of the interest with the hot stove, Ron McLean and the hot stove. Squash was another demonstration sport for us in terms of our ability to take that on at the in the Trade Center. We had 4 squash courts. I know that there were people here from National Squash Canada, and they were quite impressed with it. I think some people were disappointed when the squash courts came down. Trade Center was a huge success in terms of our capacity to manage the number of students, but athletes throughout the Canada Games, and just an illustration of the number, just a fraction of the number of athletes that were walking through the Trade Center. And what you don't see in the background are the number of buses to accommodate all these athletes. Archery, again, we had a test event with archery and a very unique. This was extremely well organized and well presented during the games. Of course, the Easter Beef Show is no stranger to the Eastlink Center, along with Old Home Week. The Home Show, again, showing the diversity and how things get set up. The Wine Festival, of course, an annual event. I think we have a 3-year contract now with the Festival of Wines. And this is just the, I mentioned earlier, the banquet for the registered nurses. This was the setup from up high. And I will mention as well that one of the things that was done in the Trade Center was the ceiling was painted black, and that provided some good ambiance for the whole center in terms of being able to use the Trade Center in a variety of different ways. So minor events that take place within the Trade Center, the Mom to Mom has been going on for a number of years now. It's a great opportunity for young parents to exchange clothing, toys with from younger to older, and so on and so forth. Of course, during the elections, we have polling stations. The fire department, city fire department trains at the East Link Center or Detroit Center. We have PEI agriculture events there as well. Bus wrapping was something I wasn't aware of, but the Trias buses that come in, if their logos change, all that work is done at in the Trade Center. Dog show, Christmas at the East Link Center. Paramedic training was something else that was going on. Grand Fondo, which is going to be taking place shortly. The Island Dog Show and Early Childhood Conference. And the RCMP used the Trade Center for training their canine units in terms of searching out drugs and explosives. Mentioned the Bluefield graduation. You get a sense of the number of parents that were accommodated for the Bluefield graduation. So events that take place on the event ground, we have the International Shellfish Festival, a regular event. There's been different show and shine car and truck events taking place there. Upcoming is a powerlifting competition and the vintage vehicle. I think last year, if you remember around town, there were a lot of Model T Fords in town. Just some setup pictures for the event grounds, the Shellfish Festival concert. In the arena, of course, we've got the circus, the musical ride, Boney M, the Holiday Dream concert, and Brett Kissel, and again, just a few pictures. The musical ride, you know, the arena has gone through a major cleaning since everything left. In the coming days, we'll probably see a fair amount of dirt and sand that comes in that will cover the ice, not the ice surface, but the concrete floor. But it's a lot of work, but again, something that certainly is enjoyed by everyone. You know, good attendance at our concerts that take place there. And again, you know, the size of the arena and the height of the arena lends itself to circuses taking place there. And we just had a circus event this past weekend at the East Link Center. So upcoming events, CFCY Hoedown, and I think my understanding is that last time I checked with Janet, there were over 600 tickets sold and probably continuing. Buck Cherry is selling out well. Blippi Wonder World Tour was again this past weekend at the East Link Center in the trades on the arena side. The World Cup 17 Challenge, we're quite excited about this. Coming up, Glorious Sons is going on sale, I think at 2 o'clock this afternoon, is it?
Yeah, so no, that's secret.
you
So
can't-
we
you
can't
can't-
let it out before they let it out, so we'll keep that in council. Yeah. It's out now.
Yeah, your live stream. What happens here is already been told.
That's all right.
All right.
So you know what's going on sale today.
And the tenors, we're hopeful to bring them on, and Thane Dunn's Elvis Tour is booked for September 8th. So improvements in terms of infrastructure and maintenance. We have a new VIP room that has been getting a lot of use by Red Shores, by the Islanders, and a variety of groups. There's been upgrades to the bar area just above the rink. Then there's new changing rooms that went in the Trade Center. They would be at the back. They were there to accommodate when the squash and archery was taking place. There was upgrades and reconfiguration of the suites in the arena side, which has given us more capacity. There's been general maintenance to both the Trade Center. I mentioned the painting of the roof black in the Trade Center has been very helpful, and then the arena itself. There's been enhanced security system and Wi-Fi, so people did in the past complain about the lack of accessibility with our Wi-Fi system. That's been largely improved. The floor.
That's the alert.
That's the alert.
I thought they found it. Where are we? Okay, so the floor and general cleaning at the Trade Center has been done, and we have a new entrance on the west side. And as part of that entrance, there has been an accessibility ramp for a wheelchair. And in the interior of the building, we have more capacity for wheelchairs at the upper level, just off the bar area, for wheelchairs to watch hockey games or whatever events are taking place in the arena. We have a new sound system, lighting upgrade. LED lights are in the floor. We have a movable sport floor as a result of the Canada Games, which could be accommodated. There's been some talk about whether there could be a pickleball tournament. The basketball floor is going to be reconditioned. Of course, we have a brand-new state-of-the-art clock in the arena, and our media center is state-of-the-art as well. We've received very positive reviews on our media center. And Honeywell improvements, I don't know, John, is there any update there?
No, we're just waiting on that grant that we've put in for the heating upgrade that the city has given us some dollars for if we get it through. So we're just waiting for that. I think it's supposed to be by the end of June.
So just again, a few pictures, illustration of the quality of the images on the clock that you see. This is the VIP room I mentioned that's getting some good use in the center. The technology in the media room. Just more view, another view of it. All of the stairwells have been painted. They're all, as you can tell, glimmering in terms of the yellow and the paint and everything else. A lot of work has. How much time was it?
Oh, they're still at it in some places. So
Yeah.
it's a 3-week job to clean everything, reseal the floor. Hasn't been done since prior to COVID. So there's been because the clinic took over the arena and the trade center, so not a lot of the touch-up work that we need was done. So they caught up this year. So it's pretty impressive.
Coors Light, sponsor.
Yeah.
This is our accessibility ramp on the northeast side we just mentioned, which is great for people in wheelchairs, obviously. And just a different view, this is the new entrance. So we'd like to give you our final slide is to sort of give you a picture of the kind of activity at East Lake Center and some of the background behind it. So when we sat down and looked at ticket sales and everything else, there are upwards of 300,000 guests that funneled through the Trade Center or the arena. To just give you an idea of the amount of time for one event. So if you look at the U Cup, it was a 4-day event. The prep time and teardown time for that was a 2-week setup and teardown. Old Home Week is a 10-day event, and the prep time, teardown, whatever. Again, it's a 3-week effort. A single concert typically would take. Concert is what, 2 hours maybe or so. The amount of time to set that all up, depending on the specifications that may be required, is 17 hours. The nurses' banquet that had over 1,000 people at it was a 1-day event, and it was a 4-day setup and teardown. So when you look at it all over a year, there are over 300 days that are either events or the time that's required to set it up and tear it down. And it gives you, I think, a pretty clear sense of the level of activity that takes place in the East Lake Center. And of course, if the island this past fiscal year, the Islanders were there for 10 months with a good run into the playoffs. And when the Islanders are there, it sometimes complicates things because we still have ice in the building. So if we have other events, floor has to go down and things of that nature. You want to make a comment about that, John?
No, I think you've covered it all, Phil. It's just, I think the sense is, and it's been a bit of an eye-opener for me as well, is how much time it actually takes to, I used to think the same thing, it's a concert, it's one night, but it typically turns into, taking the glass out, putting the floor down, putting the stage up, putting the chairs out, and then it's all got to come down when the band leaves. So there's a lot of unknown time goes into the setup for these events. So just wanted to give you a little idea what it is.
So thank you. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Philip and John. You are very busy out there and showing that you have lots of events and activities going on. And I know during Canada Games, I was out there to see some of the events going on and the work that was put in, and the staff were great, and everything was well attended. The accessibility ramp, is that new?
Yes.
And that slide?
Yes.
That was all? Okay. And what side of the building, is that going over to
See it in the northwest on the.
to that new entrance?
Yeah.
that you-
The
Okay,
new entrance on the
Yeah.
northwest side,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, could I just thank John and Philip? It's been a work in progress because of some of the managerial challenges you've incurred or had to take on over the last 6-9 months. But just a few questions. On the U Sports National Men's Hockey Championship, I know that in the past, the Metro Center, which is now like, what's in Halifax, it's called the Scotiabank Center. It was the host venue for the CIAU or U Sports basketball, and I think it moved to another location, but they're trying to get it back. Is there a possibility of trying to attract U Sports to have their national men's hockey championship in Charlottetown because of the venue on, let's say, a 5-year basis, or is that, so that's the first question. And on the squash and racquetball or squash courts that were installed during the Canada Games, they were a perfect fit, and I know they would be quite difficult to install, take down if you have a tournament, but I don't know where. I think they may be going over to Stratford as a home base for them, but it'd be nice to look at that as an option. And I have to say, Phil, that the painting of the ceiling in the Trade Center has made a remarkable difference, just phenomenal, because that Trade Center is where you have a lot of your livestock shows, a lot of dust and dirt moving in and out those doors, so it looks a lot better. And I think selling it as a venue for dinners or banquets or other possibilities opens that book up for further revenue streams. And again, that center clock during the whole Canada Games, Mr. Chair, you couldn't imagine that. For years, we looked in the four corners to see the replay. Now you can see the replay center ice and much bigger screen. So it adds to the East Link's ability to compete with Scotia Place or Scotia Arena and any other arena in the region. The accessibility issue, I've looked at. As you said, Philip, there is an opportunity. There's a platform up there in the off the. I call it the Senators' Lounge. Must be the Islanders' Lounge where they can sit there. But another question: is there a possibility to provide accessibility down on ice surface level? And I'll just ask a few questions because you're going to have lots of questions, I'm sure. And the last is when I look at your budget. We're here on June 7th. You and from the office staff, was it Jen? And I know that we looked at $410,000 for the Charlottetown grant for salaries, and then for operations it was $613,000. But if I look at the revenue that you get from the trade center, and these are numbers you gave us, it's for the Charlottetown Event Grounds, $23,000, right? For the trade center, it's with miscellaneous shows, 75,000, and Old Home Week, 55,000. So, with the improvements made to the trade center, there's potential revenue generation by selling that facility as a go-to place for graduations, other ceremonial events, dinners, and so forth, because I believe the Racino provides the staff as a backup for the preparation of the food. So it's a great partner. And so I'd like to see if we can work on that a bit. But on the event grounds, I just want to say that your reader board in front of the event grounds is not always updated. I know there's a task that's a task that you have to take on, but I really think that that's a great opportunity to advertise. It's the main throughway. It's one of the four major entry points into the city, so let's take advantage of it. And if the city can look at working collaboratively with the Eastlink Center and CADC to promote that facility more for small concert venues or any other possibility that could be a revenue gainer, would be much appreciated. But again, I want to say thanks for the work both of you have been doing. You've had some struggles, and I think we're on the right course, and good luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think you're absolutely right. I think that there's an underutilization of the event grounds, and to put some more effort into that is paramount, and certainly welcome any opportunity to work with the city. I think one of the big learnings from the Canada Games is it just demonstrated the potential that exists on the arena side and on the trade center side. And so banquets, I think high school graduations are opportunities for us. Like this year, again with Bluefield, we had the graduation and the prom. We have Colonel Gray graduation. We can look at trying to bring in the rural next year, all of which creates our potential. John, other aspects. I know you've heard a lot of comments throughout, whether it was UCUP, Canada Games, with regards to the level. And I think I agree that if we could, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to secure, whether it would be in basketball with a refinished floor in the trade center, or the arena, or hockey over a number of years. Two opportunities to secure some long-term contracts in terms of revenue generations.
Just a couple of comments from the Canada Games. I mean, the way they staged them from the racetrack with the school buses, I think there was 38 to 40 school buses on the track lined up. It was just like a cavalcade of vehicles. And they then dropped them in the trade center, staged them in the trade center, walked them through to the east, to the arena side for the opening, closing ceremonies that were quite successful. There's no other facility in Eastern Canada that could do that, where they're attached like that to where we can stage them off. So the draft was the same, all the booths, the educational booths were in the trade center. So the draft picks, they just walked across. In Sherbrooke, we had to go on a bus to get to where the educational things. So all that stuff, the UCUP, they stored all the gear in the trade center. They set up fenced in areas, locked so that the gear was protected. So we've got so much opportunity that I don't think we've really kind of explored enough to marry the two facilities together, because, like I said, there's nowhere else in Eastern Canada that could pull that off. And the exit from the opening ceremonies was like 25 minutes to get all the athletes out, back on the buses and back to the university. So those opportunities are there for us. I think we have to appreciate more of what we have and try to sell that a little bit better. So thank you, Your Worship, for your comment. Thank you.
Councilor McAleer, his question?
Thank you, Phil and John, for your presentation. I'm just kind of curious on if you have some example numbers, possibly just on kind of the revenue piece. I'm assuming like the Festival of Wines and the Home Show, like these parties are basically paying a rental fee, would I be correct in that?
Yes.
Yeah, and what might that be like, for instance, say Festival of Wines, any approximates?
Yeah, it's in the upper 10,000s, for the rental for that.
Yeah, yeah. And the home show, similar sort of
Well,
thing?
it depends if they take both sides. This year, this next time they come, they're gonna take both the arena and the trade center. It's probably 20 if they take both.
20,000?
In that
Yeah, yeah.
area.
And the event ground, say Shellfest Festival, for example, is that a,
Well, that's more of a CADC
Oh, right.
deal than ours, but
okay, yeah,
there is a rental fee there. and
right.
We used to get a ticket revenue, we don't anymore. They've got a new provider for tickets, which,
Yeah.
didn't excite us a whole lot, but anyway, that's,
So when you held the vaccination clinics, was that a revenue piece too from the province, or?
very much so, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
good,
Yeah, we wish they could have stayed.
yeah. Oh, great. So just on the Donnie Murnion room, the memorabilia
Yeah.
room, and, it's, I had no idea till earlier this year just what a showpiece that is. Is there any view or vision that you guys have on, do you see that as a piece that stays there, or is that,
Well,
it's quite a treasure, I don't know.
It is a treasure, and it probably should be in a more prominent place, to be quite honest. We love to having them in there, but, there should be somewhere that the city can really, send that message out. It's a shrine to the history of hockey, especially in Prince Edward Island. It's a great thing for us. He gets a lot of visitation in any games, but that's just it. It's not open all day, or, they can't staff
Yeah.
it like that. So it's open through the games. It's all volunteer. He does it all himself. We help as much as we can, budget-wise, to give him some upgrades on his TV and stuff like that. But it should be in a more prominent place in the city, in my mind.
I'd agree with that, for sure. Anyway, maybe that's something, some of us can maybe, try and, get behind and promote, perhaps, further. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Twill?
Thank you for your presentation, gentlemen. The University Hockey Championship was, you didn't really elaborate on that in your presentation, but I wanted to make note of it, that I attended those games, and I thought that was, very well organized. I think it all came together. I know the organizing committee, they had their own room. They would meet after every period, making sure everything was going well. And it really sent a positive message to all of those participants, all those universities that were involved in that tournament. That was a great tournament. That was probably one of the best tournaments that's ever held in this city.
I would agree.
It was good hockey, fast hockey.
Yeah.
The skill level was through the roof, and hopefully we can have it back again.
Yeah.
So I think that, to me, that was the pinnacle of all your presentations. But that just showcased the potential of that facility.
Yep. And it certainly didn't hurt that UPI beat the number one ranked team in the country. That was just I've been around that arena now for 30 years since it was
Yeah.
built. It was the most excitement I've seen in that arena in a long, long time.
Long time, and it's unfortunate that the next game there, I guess it was Golden Bears. They
Yeah.
ran into some penalty problems, but it was great hockey.
Just
Great
a side
hockey.
note, Councillor, that same organizing committee, the majority of them are also in charge of the World Under-17s coming in November. So we expected another big, huge event. These are the kids you're going to see in the draft on television in 3 years' time, and we can't kind of forget that these are the future of hockey, and the National Hockey League will be here for almost 10 days, 11 days. So it's going to be, again, we're looking forward to it. It's a great ticket price. It's very, very affordable for families. And, you know, if we get lucky at all and get young McKenna from the Yukon on one of the Canadian teams that we're hosting, it'll be full out every night, I'm sure. So looking forward to it.
Just on the, you mentioned the draft, these kids going to be drafted. A number of years ago, as you recall, John, we did have the draft for the Q here at the Civic Center. Just wondering, possibility of recruiting that draft to bring it back here to the city. That went over well, including the Charlottetown Hotel. That was a great event. It was a 2 or 3 day event, and it was good for the city.
Yeah, it was, and they enjoyed it. It's one of the best facilities that they have for the draft. You know, the impetus is on the Islanders. They
Okay.
they would be the host.
Okay, so
And then we would jump on board.
so
if
they would seize
There was
that.
some
and-
talk this year that they would apply, or they wanted them to put in a bid, but I think it's going to Moncton. Moncton put in a pretty strong bid, I think, from what I understand. But it's certainly on our radar. We'd love to have them back again. It was quite a show. I think the public didn't, I don't know if we didn't do a good enough job of getting it, because we go to Sherbrooke and the building's full, 4,000 people watching this draft.
Yeah.
Here, it was a little disappointing as far as public participation, but I think that perhaps falls a little bit on us as well, that we don't make it, which is why I bring up the under-17s, because these guys are the ones you're going to be seeing in a couple of years' time, so. Anyway,
And I just want to, John, you can pass this on to your staff. The facilities never look cleaner.
I agree.
I
Councillor.
think
And I have commented on it.
yeah, I mean, you could literally eat off that floor.
Yeah, you could.
I mean, they've done a tremendous job, so
Yep.
please pass that on.
I will, thank you very much.
Great, no, great.
Just to follow
Another-
up, just a
okay.
quick comment. Just in the accessibility issues, if you can just, I know that's going to keep coming up for future users or just expanding the use. And that youth sports, I don't know where that is. I'm sure it's initiated through the university, so we should be working with them to try to get that. And the beauty of the Eastlink Center is that it's a legacy project from the 1991 games. And it's definitely, as Councillor Tweed said, it's definitely withstood the test of time. That it's looking great. It tops with any other facility that's in the Q League. So we're in the game.
Oh, yeah, for
And I think
sure.
that the work you and John, you and Philip, and the board and the staff are doing, it's great. If I just could say that for the Eastlink capital budget, you're up to 1.3 million for this year. If you're looking at some other projects throughout this fiscal year, don't be hesitant to come back and speak to the chair of Finance and Administration, Councillor McAleer, to see if we can provide any other assistance, financial assistance where required. And I know Wayne and the department down there in economic development do a great job in promoting the city. But have you ever looked at reinstated that position? I think Jeff Reddy did it one time many years ago, manager of marketing or promotion. Is that something in the books for the board or the executive at the Eastlink Center to try to get someone there that can really push the envelope on promoting not only the Eastlink Center, the Trade Center, but also promoting the Charlottetown Event Grounds and everything that's connected to that facility, including, John, as you know, including the Racino and the Charlottetown Driving Park. Like, it's a top-notch facility, second to none in the country, and one of the best tracks, sulky tracks that you'd see is probably in Ontario, but we got everything in one site. So just keep that idea of the marketing person working with, and it could be a contract basis, but I think promotion, sell is what turns the revenue clock.
Well, yeah, sorry, go
Well, Your Worship, we would agree with you, and as you would appreciate, it is a resource issue, whether on a contractual basis, and, oftentimes contractual basis or on a pilot basis is a way to demonstrate the value of a position like that. I did work with another organization, and that was their job, was to make the organization sustainable. And that position was, got some initial funding, and it's still in place today.
Okay.
Because that's what the position does. And so having someone dedicated to the area of marketing and promoting is a skill set, and it's a resource issue in terms of having the right person and being able to sell the product.
Well, Phil, they can travel with our team downstairs, look, get on the road, sell. And I wanted just one last point. You should look at an electronic reader board for the Eastlink Center.
You're not the first person.
Yeah, guys, you have to move into the 2020s. Yeah, John, I know they cost money, but they make money too.
Knocking on Councillor McAleer's door in the near future. Just quickly, fortunate enough to attend Event Atlantic conference in St. John's the last week. I don't know, Wayne can probably tell him better, but I don't know if that's the 6th or 7th, but it's the first one that the Eastlink Centre has attended outside of the province. We hosted one here one year, and so we went. So to put faces to names that you talk on the phone, and to network with the people in the industry that are in our categories. We're not going to compete with Halifax and Moncton for the size of the arena for those A events, but we're certainly in the ballpark all the time for the B events, which is what we're bringing in now with Glorious Sons and with the tenors that are potentially coming. But we've actually been out of that market for too long, and so we're back in now. I think it was a good exercise for us to be present, and got to meet a lot of interesting people and saw some great presentations by Brad Gushu and people like that. It was pretty good to be into that. So more of that, I think, will be in our future.
No, thank you very much for your presentation, showing us what your facility can do there, and it brought on lots of great comments and discussions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Long. FCM Board of Directors meeting bid.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. All of the reports that we'll reference today are obviously in your package, and so we'll keep it at a higher level, and hopefully you had the opportunity to engage and read those reports. FCM Board of Directors meeting, staff have recently received call for bids for 2025 and 2026. This is issued to communities who don't have the capacity to host the national convention. There's 2 board meetings annually, one in March, one in September. This item is before this committee today because FCM actually requires a resolution of council in order to proceed forward with the bid. Some of the committee members will recall in the past we've hosted the National Sustainability Conference, highly successful, and have a good rapport with FCM. Bids are due by June 30th, so if the committee is on board today, we're currently at work with the bid. We would proceed with the resolution next week to council to keep things on track. It's estimated that it will cost approximately $30,000 to host. We will advance a request to the SURF fund as well, likely securing funding in the range of $10K or so. That would be typical for a national event in that range associated with the city. So the city would be responsible to commit to the remainder funds in future budgets, depending if we're successful or not. There's obviously several host responsibilities that would make up that amount, which is identified within the report. There's about 150 delegates that comes with the event that accounts for about 450 room nights, and FCM would make a decision by September 30th. So we're looking for the committee's support to continue on with the work of the bid and to move forward with a resolution to council to endorse it.
Moved by Councillor Twill, seconded by Councillor McAleer. So it'll go move forward for resolution for next Monday night. Okay. Charlottetown Arts Advisory Board's terms of reference. Mr. Long again.
Mr. Chair, the new Arts Advisory Board was recently appointed and has met for their first time. The Arts Advisory Board has been in place now for well over a decade and has done some great work with respect to advancing the city's cultural efforts. The terms of reference that are before you today up until now have not been updated since 2014. And there's been some great work done by staff with respect to a municipal scan and other jurisdictions in terms of reference and making those more modern. There are several proposed changes which are noted in your report. We would require the support of the committee to move forward with a resolution again to council. We would do that at the July meeting in order to allow staff to update those terms of reference and set the committee in motion with respect to their work. And our culture and economic coordinator is with us today to address any questions if there are any. So the draft version of the terms of reference with the changes are in your package, and the changes are identified.
Resolution's on the floor. Can I speak to it? So is Doug going to speak to it? Or So Doug, I noticed the mandate. I believe the red indicates changes, correct? To advise. I'm on page 10.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor Brown. The changes are shown, what essentially is in black has been unchanged, what's in red has been added, and what is crossed out has been removed. There were significant changes just to add some clarity overall, but if there's any specific questions,
Yeah, I
happy to
do.
answer, yeah.
Yeah, so if I look at the mandate to advise city council and staff on all matters, activities, and initiatives regarding arts and culture in the city of Charlottetown. I've asked this before, Doug, about using City Hall as a venue to promote our local artist. And that is to go to competition or do a call out for presenting art in this City Hall historic building so that it is a way to promote. And I'm not saying that we have to put $160 or $200 for the painting, but it would have contact information. Will that be part of the mandate? Could I ask if that's, and I know I'm not looking for that it be specific in the terms of references, but I've been asking and I really want to see that take off, hopefully this year.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Brown. So to the chair, through Mayor Brown, the good thing about the mandate is it's vague enough, or rather general enough, so that we can kind of have the committee advise and speak to matters related to arts and culture generally. So if this is something that you'd like me to bring forward to the Arts Advisory Board for consideration, I'm happy to do so. And the other thing I would add as well is that I have been in touch with the provincial government, their art bank. They have a collection of island artists that they maintain, and they renew every year with a call. And there's the possibility of having some additional artworks in City Hall that feature Charlottetown-based artists. And there's always opportunities to show artists for little to no cost at all to the city and make sure that they're identified, and we can be proud of the artists who contribute so much to our culture. So happy to bring that item up specifically to the Arts Advisory Board, and we can look at potentially other opportunities as well.
And Chair, again, through the chair to Doug Dumais. Doug, there's also a huge, as you know, a huge collection of art at the Confederation Centre of the Arts in their gallery, art gallery, and their collection is quite vast. So, again, it's just reaching out and making those connections. But we will have to take an inventory of where we can set them up here in City Hall, or if we look at other facilities. But there's also a security issue, and I think this is probably the best location, especially with its historic backlay or background. So I really encourage you to move on that. And just one other question, Mr. Chair, on the governance. It says, in case of chair, vice chair vacancy. So they had their first meeting. Did they select a chair or vice chair at this first meeting, or is that still in the process?
Yes, to the chair through Mayor Brown. There was a meeting. They did select their chair and vice chair. So the chair is Monica Lacey, and the vice chair is Omar Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, clarification for myself. Membership and composition, where it says the 8 members would be appointed by City Council. Where was that prior to the new council coming in? I'm just curious.
No, that resolution went to council in the May meeting, and then the May 30th. May
30th.
A regular monthly meeting in May had the selection, or had the names of the appointees.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. So that's been moved and seconded and be moved forward for the July meeting, I believe. I think Mr. Long had said. Yep. Pardon? It'll go to the next meeting? Okay. So next Monday night. Okay, thank you. Moving on, CAN Export Community Investments Program Update. Mr. Long?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is simply information sharing to keep the committee up to date. This particular item has been to the committee in the past, but we're starting to roll out, so we want to ensure that the city was kept up to speed. The program supports the attraction, retention, and expansion of foreign direct investment, FDIs. The city was awarded $20,500, representing 50% of eligible costs through the program. The municipality is required to match the funds, and we do have that accounted for in the current budget. Staff have been in communication with our partners at Innovation PEI to develop a city-led RFP to engage a matchmaker consultant who will lead us to key decision makers with a focus on biotechnology sector, whether that be new or an expansion. The city has participated in this program for several years with great success, and the project must be completed by year end. So just keeping you up to date that we will, in the coming months, start to move forward with an RFP to engage a consultant to lead us to key matchmakers within the international sector.
Okay, thank you very much for that update. Any comments or anything from anybody? All right. 2023 Ashibetsu Student Cultural Exchange Update. Mr. Long again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. July 1st of this year marks the 30th anniversary of the Charlottetown Ashibetsu municipal twinning. The exchange as a part of this twinning was to resume this fall after being paused as a result of the pandemic. Unfortunately, staff recently received unofficial word that the exchange cannot happen this year with Japanese students coming to Prince Edward Island. The impacts of the pandemic are very harsh there, and the pandemic is still rolling along in Japan and some areas of the country. And there's a transition period between key leadership staff within the community who administers this program for the municipality. So in 2021, this committee redirected budgeted funds in exchange for the establishment of a visual, natural-based development, which was a pathway of Japanese cherry trees adjacent to Terry Fox Drive. They were recently in bloom. I don't know if you had the opportunity to see those. And given the 30th anniversary and that the cultural exchange is unable to happen this year, we're hopeful that the committee would support staff's recommendation to redirect a portion of the funding which was approved. I'll come back to that in a moment, which would allow us to do some advanced maintenance on the trees, a small expansion of perhaps 3 to 4 trees, and a dedicated pathway which would be identified by a granite stone, which would be etched, acknowledging the 30th anniversary of the trees. Our staff have been in communications with Environment Sustainability Team and the professionals within that department to help us get to where we need to be. The cost would be in the range of about 75% or so of the $10,000 which was approved as a part of the budget process. And this acknowledgement will also align with the Ashibetsu Friendship Forest, where they plant new trees every Canada Day in recognition of the partnership with Charlottetown. So in short, we're looking for the committee's support to reallocate funding to advance our beautification efforts and to celebrate the 30th anniversary in light of the fact that the exchange cannot happen.
Councillor Twill? Moved. I had a question. It's gone. Seconder? Councillor McAleer? All right.
Motion's on the floor. Can I speak to it, sir?
Yep.
Through the chair to
Mr. Mayor?
Manager.
Go ahead.
Wayne, if I look through the budget for 23-24, we have public relations annual civic events. Is that where you're taking the money from for this?
No, the funding would be taken from the specific Ashibetsu line item.
Oh, I know that, but where's that line item in economic development tourism?
I don't have the budget in front of me, but I'm going to say that it is in the tourism section of the budget.
Okay. It's not under miscellaneous.
No, it wouldn't be under miscellaneous.
So I'm just wondering if down, in the next couple of days, could we just get a list of where these funds are going to? Because I know during the budget process, we didn't get a breakdown like we did in previous years. And just, forward that to the committee members if that's possible. Thank you.
Through the chair, yes, we can have that circulated to the committee. The funds that were budgeted were associated with costs associated with the exchange, so they would simply revert over to the portion of the budget that was allocated for that. But we will send out to the committee exactly where the line item sits within the budget.
Thank you, sir.
So it's moved and seconded. Does that have to go to a resolution to council on Monday night to reallocate that money? It does. It goes. Okay. Thank you.
You don't have to get a council to vote on it. It's a transfer.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Probably,
You can just check it out.
yeah, I think you're probably doing a resolution, because it is a recommending body here, right?
Okay. Move on. Fiona Wood Public Art update. Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, this is information sharing, just wanting to ensure that the committee is in the know. The city, through our department, will launch a public call for proposals for permanent art, which will be located in Connaught Square. The Charlottetown Heritage Square's conceptual master plan and decide guidelines identified Connaught Square as a beneficial site for public art. The Culture and Economic Coordinator has been working with Parks and Recreation staff with respect to the site and in various approval processes. The Arts Advisory Board has recently met and generally endorsed the project and the site. And following the site approval, a call for proposals will be issued through a selection panel, which Doug will be able to speak further to, and will select a conceptual design and advance through the various approval processes within the city corporation. This item is budgeted within the cultural portion of the budget, and I'll allow Doug to address any questions with which the committee may have.
Any questions or comments from Councilor McAleer?
Yeah, I'm assuming somewhat that when this piece of art, if you will, is, identified and approved, it's probably going to be something that will have an indefinite tenure, if you will, is kind of a long-term kind of piece that will be pretty much in that park. Am I right?
Yes, thank you, Councillor McAleer. So through the chair, through Councillor McAleer, the plan for the artwork is to have it be part of the proposal to make sure that the longevity of the work is addressed. When you're dealing with wood, obviously they need a little bit more maintenance to be maintained, but there's plenty of examples of wooden sculptures from even Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, obviously a different climate, but that are still going strong. So it's just a question of ensuring that the maintenance of the piece is part of annual budgets, and that's usually done through public works. So that consideration of maintenance is typically part of the call for proposals that we receive. And we'd also like to have the kind of a technical review that would include city staff to make sure that it doesn't interfere with any operations if it's installed in Connaught Square, and make sure that if any maintenance requirements go above and beyond what is reasonable, that would be a part of the consideration of the final chosen artwork.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay. Cultural policy review update, Mr. Long.
And finally, Mr. Chair, again, this is information sharing. In order for us to meet our objectives and action planning of the city strategic plan, the municipalities will lead the renewal of the city's cultural policy, and our culture and economic coordinator has been doing a great amount of work with respect to this file. The policy was last updated in 2006, and as you can appreciate, a lot has changed over the years. The new policy will identify diversity and cultural resources, as well as establish how the municipality ensures that the community achieves its collective goals overall. And given the complexity of this file and the amount of work that has been carried out, I'm going to turn it over to Doug to let him to address this report directly and offer more in-depth insight for the committee.
Thank you, Wayne. So, as Wayne mentioned, the cultural policy hasn't been updated since 2006. That's 17 years. So there's a great need to make sure that this reflects the current state of the art, and that we can make sure that our policies and documents reflect the reality of what's going on in the arts community. So the general objective of these policies is just to make sure that we know how to promote creative expression and activities, and we can make sure that arts and culture is accessible for all people within the jurisdiction. Typically, they kind of serve in a similar function. This is following an extensive jurisdictional scan that sort of a strategic plan would at a corporate level, but this is more specifically related to arts and culture. So it establishes a vision. It has a very clear and inclusive definition of what culture means that's localized, that isn't just something you can copy paste from anywhere. It's really meant to be reflective of the Charlottetown arts community. It establishes guiding principles that outline kind of what the key actions and goals of the policy is, which would be sort of responses to the question of what does Charlottetown value in terms of arts and culture? What do we believe in as a community? And it outlines specific strategies to help make sure that we're making decisions that align with the community's objective. So a cultural policy is really needed just to make sure that when we make decisions about whether how we fund, how we support, how we act on the cultural community's needs, that we're meeting those goals. And it wouldn't necessarily outline, say, the funding criteria, but it informs documents that would then have funding criteria. So there, as I mentioned, there was a pretty extensive jurisdictional scan across the country of cultural policies. I've included an appendix in the package that outlines the kind of summary of that jurisdictional scan, as well as the locations that that was undertaken as part of this research. In terms of next steps for the cultural policy development, the next phase, now that the discovery phase is kind of nearing its conclusion. We're entering in the engagement phase. So that will be really an opportunity for us to speak directly with external stakeholders, ensure that city staff are part of that, and that council is involved in that process as well. So in quick summary, there's more information in your package. It's going to start with a survey, which will then inform, so that survey will be issued to external stakeholders in the arts and culture community, city staff, and council. There will then be kind of an in-person engagement session or several sessions that will kind of ensure that we have an opportunity to get direct feedback from all those who have a stake in the outcome of the arts and culture policy, or the cultural policy rather. And there will also be a public survey that will be issued on our Charlottetown Hall platform that will help us kind of inform the drafting of that policy. I would add that the timeline and everything is in the package, but I would also like to add that the all of this process is being conducted in-house, so it'll be an opportunity to make sure that it's really, directed by the city, and that the city's interests are reflected throughout, and that council has an opportunity to be part of those discussions as well. So, as I mentioned, the policy's in there, or the timeline rather for the policy development is in there. Once the engagement phase is complete throughout the summer, we'll move on to the drafting, and then council can expect to see a cultural policy to endorse in the fall of this year. If there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Doug. Councillor McAleer?
Yeah, Doug, just curious on your bibliography there, jurisdictions, assuming perhaps you've had some time to view some of those, like are there any particular models or in what you've received there that you feel that the city could kind of follow in some ways, or is there anything that jumps out at you as something to take note of?
Thank you for the question. So to the chair through Councillor McAleer, I would say there's what's interesting about this is that there are a lot of policies that haven't been updated in a long time. So the ones that were done more recently are really, I think, inspiring in a lot of ways. I think what's interesting is you can generally gauge how successful these cultural policies are just because of how they're written. And I think what stood out to me was that some of them were very general and are using language that could be kind of applied anywhere. And in other organizations or in municipalities, there was language that made it feel like it was reflective of the community. So I think a successful cultural policy is something that the arts community can stand behind, and that they know that the decisions that are made at a municipality are reflective of their interests and their needs. And so the more specific it is, the more, Charlottetown has very unique strengths in terms of our arts and culture community. And we also have a lot of challenges that are interesting as well. So making sure that those are part of that conversation, generally from the jurisdictional scan, it's clear when you can tell that the policy's been developed to capitalize on those strengths and address those challenges. So, I have my own personal opinions about what are Charlottetown's strengths in terms of arts and culture. We have a really great arts community, and there's just so much opportunity. So just making sure that community engagement is part of that, I think, is another signal of a successful cultural policy. And, in this scan too, I think the key is that these documents are meant to be usable. So if, it's something that council or staff can pick up and just say, is this something that we want to look into more? We can make sure, that aligns perfectly with our vision in a similar way that the strategic plan helps us, make informed decisions about what our community needs. So I won't get into too many specifics, but yeah, it was great to look over all these documents and see what kind of fascinating things are out there. And if there's only one quick thing I can add in addition to that, is that there's an interesting shift in the discussion about the role of arts in the community. Is that I feel like in the early 2000s and 2010s, there was a lot of focus on the role within economic development, But I think there's, arts and culture being so important to the economy, but I think there's also a very important role that arts and culture plays in other areas that might be needed in the community. So whether it's mental health and well-being, there's a lot of role that arts and culture can play to support other areas in the community and the city's kind of activities. So I'll end there.
Thank you for all that information, Doug. And I just noticed one of the jurisdiction reviewed is Wood Buffalo, and I think Mayor Brown just met some staff from there just before lunch in our city of Charlottetown.
Met them over at the barbecue for the Brain Injury Association. Their son is a firefighter in Fort Mac. Son-in-law.
Very nice. All right.
Can I
on
just
to-
ask Doug a question? through
Another
the chair?
question? Sorry, yep.
Doug, when I look at the, when you look at talk about arts and culture, you were at the opening for the Sobeys Canadian collection. It's a very substantial collection, very fortunate to have it here in Charlottetown. So I'm sure there are other opportunities for us to, reach out to the arts community across the country. And that's why when I look at more specifically, a successful cultural policy establish a useful, shared, authentic, and local vision for the arts. So, we do have the Confederation Center of the Arts, which is a national institution that was opened in 1964 in celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Charlottetown Conference, and its focus was on a national perspective. So, does local mean aligning with regional and national interest? Could you clarify that?
Yes. So to the chair through Mayor Brown, thank you for the question. I would say that, what that means, what local means, is something that probably will emerge through our survey and through our community engagement process. Our current cultural policy, which is from 2006, does very much focus on prioritizing the needs of our Charlottetown cultural community, and then Prince Edward Island, and then Canada nationally. So, not that it necessarily, there's value in making sure that what that definition of localized means is something that emerges through that survey. I think there's an opportunity for Charlottetown, and historically there has been a lot of instances in which Charlottetown is sort of meant to be, as the capital city of Prince Edward Island, to be sort of a model for how the rest of the province approaches arts and culture, and that can impact national level, approaches to cultural policy as well. So I think the goal is to make sure that we're supporting Charlottetown and Charlottetown's needs, but I think as we go through this process, that definition of what local means, I think, could expand, could shrink. There's a lot of, that's why we kind of approach these things through the cultural engagement framework that we've developed, to make sure that we can include people in those conversations early on, to make sure that it's reflective of community needs.
If I could just follow up, Mr. Chair, I know we're the capital of Prince Edward Island, but also we're listed as one of the historic capitals, cities in the country because of our place in the formation of this country. So that's significant in itself on a national level. The local level is the capital of Prince Edward Island. So, Doug, in terms, again, through the chair to Doug, we have a new Arts Advisory Committee in place. Are you vetting this policy, this discussion that we're having here and other discussions you're having in the department with the new advisory council?
Yes. So thank you, Mayor Brown. So to the chair through Mayor Brown. Yeah. So they have had the I've given a quick overview of the project so far. The committee was just formed and we met for the first time last month. So there's a lot of catching up to do and making sure that they're up to speed. But they were able to provide input on the plan so far, which has been developed. And they will also be involved in certainly the review of the survey, the in-person engagement. I'd like to engage the Arts Advisory Board to be present, to make sure that they're able to be part of the conversations that are there and take that back and be part of that review. So that's sort of what an important role that the Arts Advisory Board plays, because they're not only going to be helping the development of it, but they'll be using that as a guiding document in their decision making as well.
Thank you, sir. Chair, just wanted,
Yeah,
it's, the
Communities in
communities in bloom. I know that's something that the department's overseeing. I believe we're sending out a group to Wood Buffalo regional area, Fort Mac and so forth, that covers that area. And Mr. Chair, just through to you to the manager, are we hosting it next year, the Communities in Bloom competition?
Through the chair, yes, your worship. You are correct. Charlottetown was a we bid on. Charlottetown was awarded the 2024 National Symposium and Awards. And as a part of that hosting, we have some responsibilities at this year's event in Wood Buffalo, which is the host municipality for 2023. And so we'll be on the ground there, receiving the rights to host to the following year. And then as well, the municipality continues to participate in the national program. Last year was our first year back in since the beginning of the pandemic. And we have been evaluated. We have a report on file, which we can resurface to the new committee. It was circulated to the previous committee, but we can certainly resurface that as well. And yeah, looking very much forward to hosting in 2024.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just add, I know that we're still in the recovery of Hurricane Fiona 2022, and it's been a challenge for all of us. So I just hope that this is an opportunity to work outside the silos, that Public Works will be working with their Economic Development, Tourism, Festival Events Department to ensure that we put the money, human resources towards beautifying the city like we've done in the past. So if we can just pass that on to our Public Works Committee Chair and the committee, along with the staff, that this is the year that we should be getting ready for the next year's celebration. Is that correct, Wayne? Mr. Chair?
Yes, I mean, the beautification efforts fall under the Public Works Department, so we constantly have ongoing communication with respect to them. Our department simply oversees the delivery of the Communities in Bloom program itself, so we can have some further dialogue with respect to ensuring that our city is pristine. Well, hopefully it is on a regular basis, and using the grid, the evaluation grid, to determine where we can improve or where areas might be a cause for improvement.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, and I just wanted to comment, the Public Works staff are doing a fantastic job so far with the cleanup throughout the city, and the snowplow damage. They're making downtown area and the city, very inviting. So, Mr. Long, you had a comment?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to confirm the mayor was asking earlier where the Ashabetsu line item was within the budget. So as I indicated, it is in the tourism and civic events celebrations. Under community relations civic events, there's a line item called partnerships. That's where the funding has been approved for by council.
And I'm just asking if we can just get a list of some of the areas under Public Relations Annual, just what some of those line items are, because in the past we did receive them, and I don't think we got an opportunity to see them this year because of how we were pushing the budget through, but just a follow-up on that. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? No? Motion to adjourn. Councillor Twill, seconded by Councillor McAleer. Thank you very much, everyone.